Coello, I thought in particular today was kind of the standout for me. It seemed like he was dominating all facets of play, to be honest.
So the Nenno really has to up his game if this partnership is to ever really compete against Chingalan and Coello Tapia.
Coello Tapia. And so even though Lebrón is playing well, he's having like, maybe 20 something winners, but he's also bringing in like, 15 unforced errors, which is quite a bit. But in a way, it's also just a function and a product of what he's doing out there, because he has to carry most of the weight offensively. What I'm trying to say is the end result probably doesn't change between Golden Point and as we currently have it with just normal advantage. I think you'd still have the same kind of players be at the top, but I do think that you add an element of just variance and randomness. Welcome to the Paddle Pod, your weekly podcast covering professional paddle, presented by Hugo and Gons. We're on to episode 74, and as always, joined by my co-host here today, Hugo. It's great to have you on. How are you doing?
Very excited to be back, Gons. Thanks very much. I'm very well, as you very much know, given that we played paddle just a few hours ago. Bit of a shame that it didn't go our way. Obviously, as you know, only you and I know, but it was a tight match. We lost the tiebreaker in the first set, and then just got broken once in the second set. So it was a tight game, but I think we played well. Lots of positives to take into next week, where we'll be playing another, federated tournament. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, good opposition, and it was a really tight game. I mean, for a moment, I thought we weren't going to finish, in time, and and we would have left it with a draw. But nevertheless, we move, and hopefully next time we can get the better of them.
Yeah, definitely. But we should probably move on to the main paddle, professional paddle, because ours is amateur for now. Who knows what will happen in the future. And obviously the final of the Dubai P1 Premier Padel latest tournament has just happened. It's just finished. And water's wet, to be honest. I was trying to think, how are we going to make it an interesting, engaging episode for our fans and listeners, given that it seems like this has been the same story on repeat every week for about 3 years.
Yeah, honestly, I really thought that we'd have a really good chance for this tournament to have a new final and potentially even new winners, but it was not the case. I mean, once again, the tour is just very much dominated by Coello Tapia and Chingotto and Galan. And I mean, Coello, I thought in particular today was kind of the standout for me. It seemed like he was dominating all facets of play, to be honest. I mean, he was incredible defensively, managed to get some balls where you thought, okay, Galan and Chingotto have won the point already. And then offensively, we know how good he's been as of late. So it seems like he's carrying on the form from the World Cup, because obviously there he played an amazing match. And Tapia, I thought that in the moments that he needed to step up, he did. And in the moments that there was a ball in the air and he was the one smashing, I mean, he was getting all of them. So I don't know what else to say, to be honest. It's just, I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, and we can probably just edit the video and put stuff from previous episodes and it will be exactly the same. But I'll leave you, Hugo, to give your thoughts on the match. And there's a question that I do think is quite interesting, that I think will make this episode a bit more fun, and kind of in relation to what happens next with Coello Tapia and Chingotto and Galan. But I'll leave you share your thoughts of the game.
Nice. Thanks, Gons. Looking forward to the question, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think Coello is currently the X factor in this final that we've watched so many times. And it's obviously been a roller coaster for all players in terms of their level within this final. I mean, we've seen Tapia dominate. We've seen Galan dominate for a number of months and play unbelievably well. Chingotto recently pulling the weight, playing absolutely unbelievably, and now Coello. I think a lot of it's down to confidence. You can just see how confident he is on the court and also off the court when he's like at the benches, when he's sat down. He's speaking more than he was before, when perhaps he wasn't playing as well. So it just shows how mental sport is and paddle is. And I just think, you can see Coello's smash is back as well. He's going for a lot more smashes. Whereas before, it wasn't, well, they weren't really working very well. And credit where credit's due, because to be honest, he's just kept insisting and trying smashes and trying smashes. And that's probably led him to, well, recuperate his form. So yeah, I mean, I think he's playing unbelievably well. He's really dominating Chingotto in that cross-court battle, where before Chingotto's lobs and chiquitas and even bandejas and víboras were being really hard for Coello to manage. And now he's blocking absolutely everything. I mean, you can literally fire a bullet into his racket and he'll just place exactly where he wants. So I do totally agree. I think Coello has been, he has been the main difference compared to, well, a few weeks back when Chingalan were beating Coello and Tapia, which actually hasn't happened now for, what is it, 5 or 6 straight matches, which is quite a lot given...
Six out of 6 finals for Coello
and
Tapia.
Yeah, so 6 out of 6 finals. So, I mean, the tendency's clearly changed, as we indicated last week and probably the week before. And we'll see how Chingalan, well, get back from this, because they're going to be really struggling mentally after being so close to maybe achieving the number 1 spot and now feeling like they're almost like a step behind. So, I mean, we'll see. And also, just a quick one on Galan. I hope nothing serious with his injury. Obviously, he had a knock towards the end of the match. I think it did affect his level a little bit towards the end. But yeah, I mean, maybe just very quickly on Chingotto and Galan today in the final. I thought that Galan, in maybe it was due to his injury, but in some of the key points towards the end of the match, he made some surprising errors, like some easy smashes that he didn't manage to make, some balls that he should have played por cuatro and actually didn't, and they ended up losing the point. So yeah, a bit of maybe anxiousness in his game. As I say, it could be due to his knee hurting, etc. And then from Chingotto's side, I thought defensively he was unbelievable. He was really, really good. And just overall, I thought he managed the game quite well. I think that it was just Coello and Tapia were too good, and they won the game themselves rather than Chingotto and Galan not performing to their higher standard.
Yeah, I think what I will say on Chingotto is I thought that potentially some shots, especially on the smash, he kind of sold himself. Like, I don't think his smash was as accurate as because this week he has been, putting the smashes away quite decently. But I thought today he got caught out a couple of times. And then there was one game, I think, when they got broken. I can't remember if it was first or second set, but Tapia does a kind of chiquita for a return, and it lands right on Chingotto. And it's I wouldn't say it's not a super easy ball, but it's definitely not a hard ball. And then Chingotto just puts it kind of in the net. And I think that kind of made it either love 30 or well, actually no, 15-40 if I'm not mistaken, because that was the point being returned from Tapia. So in any case, I honestly don't think that they've played a bad match. And it's just it kind of feels like a lot of the errors as well come down to things that they've got to try, because there's just no way to beat Coello and Tapia, right? Like, and I think sometimes on court, we also get this feeling, Hugo, when we're playing against opponents that are really good or just having a particularly good day, that you don't really know how to win the points. And you're like, I almost have to risk it so much and do so like shots that I wouldn't want to normally do, because they just have a level of extra risk. But because that's the only way I can win the point against these guys. And so, yeah, I kind of don't put it on a lot on Chingotto and Galan, whereas I think in previous finals, there were definitely moments where you could argue like Chingotto, Galan, what are you guys doing? You're kind of throwing this away. But this time it just feels like you have to go for these shots, because Coello and Tapia are just going to run you through if you don't.
No, totally agree. And I actually really like that comparison to just taking it to when we play on court. When the opponents are having an unbelievable day or they're just much better than you, you've got to try things. You're not just going to get by doing the minimum or playing at your base level if the other pair is better or they're having a great day. So that's what Chingotto and Galan were doing today. And I think, as you say, they tried everything, but Coello and Tapia currently are genuinely just unplayable. What is quite interesting is that I almost felt that Lebron and Nenno, and maybe this leads on quite nicely to yesterday's match. I almost thought that Lebron and Nenno made COELLO and Tapia struggle a little bit more than Chingalan did today. I felt that COELLO and Tapia were very in control of the match. I don't know whether they even faced a break point, maybe one throughout the whole match. And yesterday in the first set, I know the second set was a spanking. It was 6-1 to COELLO and Tapia, but the first set was really, really tight. And I really did think that maybe because they've played Lebron and Nenno less, so they're more unpredictable. Maybe Lebron also on the backhand. Players probably haven't studied him as much, but I just felt that they created a bit more chaos in COELLO and Tapia, which ultimately led them to, well, at least in my eyes, be closer to winning that first set. And then who knows what would have happened. I don't know whether you agree, Gons.
Yeah, I thought that probably one of the better matches I think that we've seen from Lebrón and Nenno so far. I thought that Lebrón with the smash was really, really good. I still do feel like Nenno is kind of nowhere near as good as he was last year. And I still feel like his offense has definitely gone down. I just don't think that he's winning points as easily as he was in the past. And I also do think that his defense has gone down a bit as well. Like he misses he just has some kind of weird unforced errors, or like just in general forced errors that we wouldn't see in the past. I thought that in the past, I mean, he was always being so reliable, easily, if not the best kind of forehand or at least like right-handed forehand player, top two, top three. And for example, now I definitely think that he's a level below Chingotto. And I just feel like he's lost that level of consistency, which you can kind of live with if that the offense is still there and he's still bringing in a lot of points. But the main problem comes down, he's lost that consistency defensively, and he's also lost the ability to generate a lot of winners easily. I thought that his smash a lot of times, again, he kind of sold himself and wasn't as good. I think I remember in particular a moment where it was like a really easy ball and he like smashed it straight in the glass, and Lebron, as you can imagine, he literally was like with his hands like in his head, like what was that? And I think it was like it was quite an important point. I can't remember exactly what point it was, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like he's lost it a bit there. But overall performance, I mean, like I said, I do think it was one of the better matches, but I think it just kind of tells you that these players, when they're playing COELLO and Tapia, like they're not playing bad matches, they're playing good matches, but it's just not good enough. Like you just can't beat them with a good game. Like you have to have an excellent game, and yeah, it's just really hard.
100%. And we are being so harsh on them because when you think about it, Lebron and Nenno have only made have only not made the semifinals in one tournament since they've teamed up, which I think is a pretty good. I mean, it's what's expected. I think it's what they expected from themselves, apart from one slip up against Chotas and Alejandro, who obviously played a great game that day. So it is hard to I think probably a bit harsh to say that, but it's just the feeling. I agree with you specifically about the Nenno. I just don't think he's going for as many smashes as he was before. When he was playing with that when he was playing really well, he had so much confidence that he was going for smashes like actually quite far back in the court. And now he's not doing it. So I think that reflects that from an attacking perspective, he's struggling to find quick ways to win points, which is a problem. And then what that means is that Lebron basically has to generate 80, 90% of the winners or win. Well, that it doesn't have to be a winner, but create on forced error on unforced error. Just generate the final hit of the point. And it's a big weight to carry on your shoulders if you have to do that consistently for your pair. So Nenno really has to up his game if this partnership is to ever really compete against Chingalan and COELLO and Tapia, and not just in a match. I'm saying throughout a whole season or throughout a number of months. If they really want to be at that level, Nenno has to raise his game. From Lebron's side, I was quite impressed. His smash was actually really, really good, particularly his kick smash. And maybe a slight kind of concern is that it still feels like, when the key points come about, you almost have a feeling that Lebron's going to make a mistake sometimes it's trying too much. Sometimes it's just mentally, I have a feeling that he's still not 100% back to what he used to be. So he's not as confident. And well, we know, and we've literally said it a few minutes ago, how important the mental side is in padel. So there were a couple of key points in that semi-final match this week in Dubai. And Lebron made both mistakes with a similar shot, a relatively simple bajada. And he wasn't actually trying to spank it. He was going for a relatively safe, say 70, 80% accuracy shot, and he missed them. So I think that's probably something he has to work on. And also, I just find amazing how when they do the changeovers and he's sat on the bench, when everything's going well, he's, let's go team, come on, we can do it, chatting, etc. And then as soon as they lost the first set, he's in a different world. I mean, he's just like looking around, he's changing his top. Nenno and Silingo are having a tight conversation about what they can change, etc. And Lebron's just thinking about he's probably thinking about the match, to be fair, but he's just somewhere else, which I don't think is particularly beneficial for the partnership and for the pair.
Yeah, I mean, we do know how Lebron is on court, and I mean, he's probably not going to change by now. But I think on his side, like he's generating a lot of winners, and he's probably being more aggressive than I thought he'd be. But he's also bringing in a lot of unforced errors. And that's probably due to the fact that he is taking a lot of risks. So kind of if the pair wants to be successful, they, I guess, have to balance each other out. Sorry. So, they can either go Lebron not having to generate as many winners. So Martín maybe has to take more, like a bit more of the load. But then that means also that Lebron should kind of reduce this unforced error count. Or if Lebron's going to be the only one really kind of carrying the weight offensively, then Martín has to just be excellent in terms of, really consistent, no mistakes. And so at the moment, I just don't think that we're finding that sort of level. I mean, from what we've seen of who beats COELLO Tapia, which have been Chingalan, I mean, there have been matches with ridiculous stat lines, right? Where you see Galán have something like more than 30 winners and single digit unforced errors. And maybe you have Chingotto with like 4 unforced errors and like 10 winners, right? That's the kind of, those are the kind of numbers that you're going to need.
Sounds easy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But those are the kind of numbers that you need to beat COELLO Tapia. And so even though Lebron is playing well, he's having like, maybe 20 something winners, but he's also bringing in like, 15 unforced errors, which is quite a bit. But in a way, it's also just a function and a product of what he's doing out there, because he has to carry most of the weight offensively.
Agreed. And should we maybe touch on the other semi-final? Because I thought it was actually a really good game as well. And I thought that Yanguas and Stupa were very close to winning that first set. I mean, Chingalan, were off the mark straight away. They started playing so well, and they were 3-love up within about 5 minutes. And then when they were serving for the set, Stupa and Yanguas managed to break their serve and made it 5-all. And Chingotto and Galan ended up breaking again and winning that set 7-5, and then taking the second set 6-3. But there was only a breaks difference in each set. And maybe going into individual players, I thought that this time round it was Yanguas, who so far this season has been probably the most improved player. We've spoken about it a lot. I think he was definitely not as good as he's been recently. I think that he didn't really know when to take a risk, when to go for a risky shot, when to actually play it safe. And he was getting really visibly frustrated. Now, we know Yanguas is quite expressive on court, but he made a couple of big mistakes with easy smashes that he maybe put into the net, or volleys that he was trying to absolutely whack and he missed. And it was just a couple of very important points. Also, he tried one of his classic drop shots with the backhand that goes out the door, missed it. So a couple of key mistakes, probably linked to bad decision-making, at least in my eyes, led them to ultimately to lose the match, to be honest. I thought Stupa was really good. he reminded me of his best version, being honest. I thought it was really, really good. And he managed to, well, I'd say not beat Galan in that cross-court battle, but be quite even. But I just thought that Yanguas didn't pull enough of the weight for them to win that match. I don't know what your thoughts were on that semi-final, Gons.
Yeah, I just think that Yanguas probably has to deal a lot better, like has to improve his performance under pressure. I mean, clearly, I think when we look at the final in the World Cup, he just kind of collapsed due to the pressure. And I kind of felt that in the important points, as you highlighted here as well. It just feels like he starts to rush things under pressure, and his shot selection isn't as good. So yeah, it's kind of like one area of his game that he probably needs to improve to get to the next level. But overall, decent performance. Obviously, a very tight score, and as you say, Stupa played well. So I mean, I do think it's as you highlighted in the beginning with Lebron and Nenno, they've also kind of been a lot better recently, making semi-finals as they're supposed to. So fair play to them in that regard, and we'll see how they finish the season. But yeah, it's just kind of that area of the game that, as you say, Yanguas is like a very emotional player, express a lot on court. So he just kind of has to learn how to deal with the moments, with the key points a bit better, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the World Cup final is probably still very much in his head. And even though they made the semi-finals in Dubai, they played well. They beat Coquinito and John Santh, which were obviously a tough bone in the quarterfinals in a very tight match. I think it was 7-6, 6-4 or 7-6, 6-3 with one break. So they played well, and I think they challenged Chingalan, so they should be happy with the week. And I think they are progressing as a pair. They've got much better than how they were playing at the start, which is good. So, well, I mean, we'll see between the end now and the end of the season whether they manage to maintain that level, whether they manage to increase it and finally beat Chingalan or COELLO Tapia. I mean, I think in terms of level, both pairs are more likely to be able to beat Chingalan right now than COELLO Tapia based on how well the Golden Boys are playing. But you never know. Maybe they relax when they actually mathematically seal the number one spot, which, to be honest, should be quite close, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know how many points they've got on Chingalan now, but I mean, I can't imagine that it's going to be much longer.
No, exactly.
So, I mean, we definitely got we've got next week, Kuwait,
There's
P1.
Kuwait, then there's a major
Exactly. So
Mexico, then there's another
yeah,
P1 in
yeah,
Italy, and
yeah.
then
I mean, I'm
final.
sure after the major, if if COELLO and Tapia win the major and they win the next P1, I mean, I'm sure by then it's sorted. But I did just want to bring it back because I still haven't asked you the question, and before we log off, I do want to ask you the question. And basically, in light of all the recent results from COELLO and Tapia, do you think that maybe heading into next year, or if they actually do continue and close out this whole year winning everything, basically, do you think there should be some sort of regulation change?
We've spoken about this offline, and personally, I think right now, no. And I'll tell you why. I think it would be slightly unfair for COELLO and Tapia to have regulations changed, for them to have to struggle more, or what, basically to help other pairs beat them or give them a bigger chance. Because even though this season has been slightly boring in the sense that Chingalan and COELLO Tapia have dominated pretty much completely, you never know what's going to happen next season. And I think it's unlikely that this continues next season. When you look at the recent seasons, last season it was the Super Pibes who challenged them. The season before it was Paquito and the season before.
It was
COELLO and
Lebrón and
Tapia,
Galán #1.
exactly. So it was Lebrón, yeah, exactly. COELLO and Tapia beat Lebrón and Galán, and then I remember.
The previous season, COELLO and Tapia weren't together.
Well, yeah, sorry. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is that I think every season's been different in terms of the two pairs that have gone for the number one spot. I was just trying to think further back, I remember when Nenno and Paquito against Lebrón
Yeah,
Galán.
exactly.
Again, they were very close. So I think something will change next season. It's hard to see it right now, but based on the trend of how paddle's been recently, I think it'll happen. So I think they should let it be at least for one more year. And if it happened to be another season of just Chingalan and Goyo Tapia dominating and Goyo and Tapia kind of comfortably sitting at the top of the rankings, then I would think about it. But you're probably thinking, hey, rules changed for Bela and Juan Martin and Bela and Lima to basically stop them from winning as much. But that was because Bela had been the number one in the world for about 14 years. So I still think it would be a bit unfair, given that Lebrón and Galán were number ones in the world for 3 and a bit years and they didn't change anything. I think it would be unfair. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting question. I do think that what we saw, for example, with Lebrón and Galán was obviously they dominated the tour for a long period of time, but we saw a lot of different matchups. We saw a lot of pairs winning titles. I think what's really starting to get me is seeing the exact same semifinal and even more the exact same final every time. So it's not so much that Goy and Tapia are the number ones, right? And they let's say they just perform so well and they're so consistent that they manage to be number one. It's more about the fact that you're seeing the exact same final in every single tournament. So I do think that, for example, bringing back the golden point, I think would be really good because it adds just that little extra variance to the game, right? And that randomness and unpredictability that you could just win the point in like a sudden death and break, for example, your position. And I think that would bring an element of just seeing different pairs in finals and potentially having more pairs winning titles, which I think would make it more fun. But of course, I mean, at the end of the day, Goy and Tapia would probably still be number ones, right? I mean, they kind of proved it last year, and Lebron and Galan proved it when they were so dominant. They were still number ones. Like, it doesn't matter with Golden. What I'm trying to say is the end result probably doesn't change between Golden Point and as we currently have it with just normal advantage. I think you'd still have the same kind of players be at the top. But I do think that you add an element of just variance and randomness, that you can have different people, different finals, different people, different pairs winning titles. That what we're currently seeing.
It might. I mean, if the golden point was to be brought back, and I actually wouldn't be against it because I did think it was a great thing for paddle, and as a spectator, I think it makes it really interesting. But I just don't know whether that would change much. Being honest, I just think that the top players are the ones that perform best under pressure, and I just think it'd be a pretty similar outcome. Whether there's something else that they could change, I don't know what that could be. Maybe they could make courts a lot slower, and maybe that would make Goyo and Tapia struggle because obviously they're big hitters. And to be honest, a lot of players have been calling for courts to be slower, or at least to have different seasons throughout the year where you've got very slow courts, medium court, very fast courts. Well, just to change it up and because it makes sense, much like tennis. So I think Goyo and Tapia probably would struggle a little bit more in very slow conditions, and it would probably help players like Nenno and Chingotto, although Chingotto's obviously still performing unbelievably well on fast courts. But I think it would help those slightly different players, maybe Edu Alonso, Momo Gonzalez, Coqui Nieto, John Santh, who are very happy to take points kind of to the distance and play very long rallies. It would probably help them do better. So I wouldn't mind seeing that, and maybe that would cause some changes. But yeah, I mean, I struggle to think about any other regulations that could really change this current tendency. I mean, we should probably ask our fans. Hopefully they can leave a few comments in the comments of this video.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to hear other people's opinion, of course, on this matter. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with your point on the pressure. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, the best players are still going to be at the top, but it's more about that week in, week out variance. And I'm currently just finding it like this tournament, to be honest, I didn't really like it. I thought it was a bit boring. I'm not going to lie. So, for the next, if we see the same final for the next like 3-4 weeks, or the next like same tournament, like the same final until the end, with the tournaments left till the end of the season. I just wonder if they're going to do something to potentially change that. Not that it means that COELLO TAPIA won't finish number one next year, but that at least we see some kind of variance in the game.
I'll tell you one random idea that I've just thought of. I think it could be quite interesting that you have a few tournaments throughout the season that are seedless. So there's no seeds. And Chingalan could face COELLO TAPIA straight from the off, and you just go into the draw and it's random. I think that could be quite interesting, because you'd probably see pairs make finals just because they've been on the easier side of the draw. But they might, in one match, who knows what could happen. So I don't know. I think could be an interesting idea going forward, and I haven't seen it anywhere else.
No, yeah, it's not a bad one, but yeah, please everyone leave your thoughts, and also let us know. Are you finding it boring, or you think it's completely fine? You're loving it. You just want to see Chingotto, Galan, and COELLO TAPIA because they're clearly the best. But yeah, I mean, I think at least from my side, that's been everything. And as always, Hugo, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, no, just all the last thing I wanted to drop in is next week again, it's Lebron and Nenno on COELLO TAPIA's side.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, again, that's something they have to change, because everyone wants to watch Lebrón against Galán. And it was an interesting game when we watched it recently. And I think that could be the tightest matchup right now. So that's a problem in itself. But yeah, other than
that is another problem as well.
yeah. Other than that, I'm done. So thanks very much for listening, guys, and catch you soon.